Hello kids, this is your story time. Today we will read a story, Guinea Pig Podge. Let's get started. My name is Podge and I am a guinea pig. I can just remember when I was a baby that I had lots of brothers and sisters and that we all used to cuddle up together in the warm straw. As we grew older, we began to explore all around our hatch and try to climb up the wire netting in front. Often people would come in to have a look at us, and this would make my mother feel very proud. One day, our visitors were our mother and her two children, a boy and a girl. I can remember our master opening the door of our hutch and picking up one of my sisters. Now, how about this pretty one? He said. She is very nice, said the little girl, but I like that fat little fellow in the middle best of all. Yes, I like that one too, said the little boy, the one who looks as though he's combed his hair all different ways. I looked around to see if they meant my brother, but his hair did not grow all different ways. Suddenly, my master reached in and picked me up. I could scarcely believe it. They had chosen me out of all the family. The children squealed with delight when they held me in turn in their hands, and when their mother said, "Yes, that's the one we'll have." I began to feel a little scared and wondered what was going to happen to me. It seemed quite an adventure when they took me out to their car, for I had never been outside before. All the sights and sounds and smells were so new. But when we reached the children's home, a surprise lay in store. Running from the car, they took me into the garden, and there, in the middle of a smooth green lawn, was my new home. Peter, the little boy, stepped over the wire fence in front and placed me inside on some clean straw. "This is very nice," I squeaked. "I've a little place all to myself and a front garden too." The children watched me every movement with delight. "He is a real roly-poly," laughed Peter. "He is a round Podge." "Why, Peter, you have found a name for him," cried Jenny, the little girl. "Podge? That's what we will call him." And suppose I was from that moment. As the days passed, I grew bigger and I think fatter than ever. Every morning, the children swept out my hutch and gave me clean straw and fresh water in my basin. Then it was breakfast time, and I had oats and other good things to eat: lettuce, watercress, a carrot, or sometimes a nice juicy apple. When the children were at school, I would have a nap, and soon they would come roping home to their lunch. We always had a game before they went back, and it was not long before they came racing home for their tea. In the evening, we used to wander down the lane to gather dandelion leaves or fresh juicy grasses for my supper. And if it was a chilly night, they would take my hutch into the warm garden shed and give me hot mash in a little bowl. Sometimes we had fun in the big garden, but the children would always stop me from wandering into the part where the vegetables grew. Then one day I made a new friend. I was just about to fall asleep when I heard a rustling noise in the straw, and there sat a brown creature with such a long tail it really made me feel quite envious. "Hello," I said. "Who are you?" "Me. I am Marmaduke, a mouse. You know," he squeaked. "I always come looking for tidbits at night. I suppose you wouldn't have a morsel of cheese handy, or a candle, and no, very scarce are candle ends these days. Never mind, I will just finish off these oats you have left in your dish." The oats were gone in a thrice, and for a moment he sat there cleaning his whiskers. I will be off now then, he said. I will save you some bits tomorrow. I told him. All right then, I'll see you tomorrow, he squeaked. I hope that tomcat of theirs is asleep, for I think I will just go and I have a look round the kitchen floor and away he scampered. Then, of course, there were the birds. My special friend was a robin called Harold, who lived in a hole in the bank. He always came to have little chat with me first thing in the morning and last thing at night. One sunny spring morning, he perched on my wire fence and asked, "You haven't any room to spare for my babies, I suppose?" I told him I never had any room, but that he was welcome to take them any bits he might fancy from my bowl. "I'll just take a few morsels of this brain," he chirped. "I will bring my babies along to show you one day. They are growing up so fast they will soon be looking for worms themselves." He was as good as his word, and a few days later there was a whole string of baby robins sitting on my fence. My biggest surprise, however, came when I was strolling round my little garden one early morning. A voice said, "Good morning, Rabbit." I looked up and saw two bright eyes looking at me from under the hedge. "I'm not Rabbit," I said. "I am a Guinea pig." "A Guinea? What? Pig?" I cried. The newcomer came floppy-hoppy up to my fence, and I saw he was a nice sandy color with long ears. "You don't look like a pig," he said. "Now I come to look at you closer. You don't look like a rabbit either." "What does a rabbit look like?" I asked. "Bless my whiskers, I'm a rabbit," he said. "Pigs grunt, you know, and have curly tails. You don't grunt, and I can't see your tail at all. And this guinea bit, is that all you are worth, a guinea?" "My name is Podge," I said hastily, to change the subject. "What's yours?" "Floppy brown, that me," said the rabbit. "I live with my family on the hill." "Goodness, you must have a very large hutch." "Hutch!" I cried. "Hutch! We live in Bro, all sunk under the ground," scoffed Floppy. "Why not come to pay us a visit and see for yourself? I'll show you the way." "Can't be done," I said. "I've got a fence all round me." "Well, dig your way out," said Floppy. "Dig? I can't dig," I gasped. "I haven't a spade, you see." "Nonsense. Who wants a spade?" said Floppy. "You just watch me." And he began digging away with his front paws and kicking the earth flying with his back legs until he had a tunnel right under my fence. "Hello," he grinned, poking his head up through the hole. "This is your way out. Come along." I followed through, feeling very excited. I had never gone wandering before without the children to look after me. "This way," sang Floppy, and he hopped through the hedge so quickly that if I had not seen his white tail bobbing up and down, I should have lost him. I crawled after him and was out of the garden and into the open country beyond. Floppy had gone racing off at such a pace I was soon left far behind. But he stopped at last by a stream and waited for me to catch me. "There's our bridge," he said, and he led me to where a tree had fallen. "This is much safer than man's bridge. We try to keep away from man's path as much as we can. Come along, we haven't far to go." I was glad when I was over that bridge, for to me the stream looked very wide and deep. "If ever you get lost, just follow the rabbit track," sang Floppy over his shoulder. "It leads straight to the Bro." And he raced away along a along a narrow track winding uphill through tall grasses. I puffed away behind as fast as I could go, wondering what bro could be like. At last I caught up to him sitting on top of the hill. I looked about but could see no sign of hutch or a house or anything except lots of holes in the sandy banks. Everybody's indoors, said Floppy, winking, and he shouted, "Come on out! It's only Floppy with a friend." And then out of every hole popped a rabbit, two rabbits, three rabbits, 50 rabbits, big ones, little ones, all just like Floppy. None of them looked like me, all patches of brown and white. "We thought your friend was chasing you, so we hid," said one of the rabbits. "We have never seen anyone quite like him before. What exactly is he?" And all the rabbits stared at me very hard. I began to wish very much that I had long ears and some sort of tail. "It's a sort of pig thing, and he costs about a guinea," explained Floppy. "He is very rare, you know, so I brought him to show you and to show you to him." "I haven't heard him grunt," said one young rabbit. "Farmer Mangold's pig grunt no end, and his ears flop over his eyes." "That just show how rare this one is," said Floppy. "Come, Podge, I will show you over the warren," he went on. "That's what we call our home. Just follow my tail." And he led me down a long dark tunnel. He showed me the extra wide passing places, the nursery room dug out at the side, and the big room where they all slept at night on the sandy floor. "Now run back to the front door and I'll show you something," grinned Floppy, and he ran off down another passage. I had just reached the front door, only there wasn't a door there. When he called "Hello," I looked round and he was sitting on the bank. "I came out through the back door," he said. "Very useful if someone's chasing you, but now it's time for a bite to eat." The rabbits were scattered all around the hillside, nibbling grass, except for one larger rabbit who sat bolt upright on a little mound. He had just settled down to a nice pitch of chickweed when I heard two loud thumps and found I was all by myself on the hillside. Not a rabbit was in sight. Then I heard the barking of a dog. Feeling very scared, I began to run as fast as I could towards the burrow. This was Podge. It was Floppy with his head poking from his doorway. I scuttled after him in a flurry of sand down the tunnel. "Didn't you hear the thumps?" he cried. "That was our sentry warning us our dog was coming." "My, but that is clever," I gasped. "But what dangerous lives you led." "Yes, we do," nodded Floppy, "but it's safe to go out again now. Let's go to see my nephews and nieces. They don't know their Uncle Floppy yet, as they are only 2 weeks old and have only just opened their eyes." We ran along the hillside until we came to a hole blocked up with sand. "My sister has gone out and shut the front door," explained Floppy, "but we can get in. Just stand to one side a moment, will you?" he went on. "When I start to dig, I sometimes get quite carried away and I don't want to bury you in sand." He began to scrabble the sand away with quick movements of his front paws and kicks with his back legs. Soon Floppy was leading me down a tunnel with the big dark room at the side, and here, curled up in a nest, where in a furry nest were 5 baby bunnies. "Aren't they funny?" grinned Floppy. "My sister pulls fur from her own coat to make their nest, and they grow so quickly they'll soon be out playing games in the sunshine." He led the way outside and once again blocked up the entrance. All that digging has made me hungry, he said. Let's go and find some nice tender carrots. He scampered off, but as I followed, I did not feel at all happy. I remembered how Peter and Jenny had always stopped me from wandering into the vegetable patch. Then all at once, Floppy stopped and let out a squeak of alarm. A hawk? He gasped. And no, bro, near at hand we can dodge into. Quick! Make for that bramble patch. And he raced away and dived among the thorns and prickles. I ran after him and dived in too. But goodness, how those thorns hurt, and I thought my poor nose would never feel the same again. I should never have brought a short legged creature like you so far from shelter. Painted Flopsy. See, that nasty old hawk is still hovering overhead, and I've got to get you home. I looked up through the tangle of leaves and thorns and saw a big bird hanging still in the air just above us. Why not try the ditch? Said a voice I knew, and there, winking at me through the weeds, was my friend Marmaduke. Please, mouse, what shall we do? Cried Flopsy. Just crawl on your tummies down among the weeds, said Marmaduke. Then you must race across and get down into the ditch and crawl along until you come out near your burrow. Keep out of sight, especially you, went on Marmaduke, looking at me. That hawk will spot your white coat miles away. Can't see why you are not brown like me. We gasped out our thanks to Marmaduke and did just as he said. I was scared as we dashed for the ditch, but I felt a lot more safe as we crawled along in the mud and reeds. At last, Flopsy said he could see the Warren and the sentry watching while the others fed. Make a run for it, whispered Flopsy, and away we dashed towards the sentry. Where have you been? Said the sentry, looking stern. Now listen, there are wild animals like us rabbits, and there are tame animals like this pig, and they are quite different. If Flopsy tried to live in your hutch, he would be very unhappy, and if you try to live here, pig, you wouldn't last a couple of days. Your colors are wrong and you are too slow. No, pig, this is no place for you. Take my advice and go back to your safe garden. Besides, think how worried your human friends will be. If you hurry, you will get there just in time for breakfast. I had forgotten all about Peter and Jenny. Yes, they would be worried, and I certainly did want my morning dish of breakfast. So I thanked the sentry, said goodbye to my rabbit friends and Flopsy, and I set off down the hill and over the stream until we came to the garden hedge. Well, goodbye, Podge, sniffed Flopsy. I will come to see you whenever I can and tell you all the news. I shall look forward to that. I said goodbye and thank you for all my adventures. I watched him run off and then crept back through the hedge. And there were Peter and Jenny looking for me all over the garden. I ran towards them and suddenly they turned and saw me. Oh, Posh, they cried, we are so glad you have come back to us. And do you know, I was glad too.